Have you ever wondered why you crave certain foods, even when you know they're not good for you? It's more than just a lack of willpower. What if those cravings were whispers from the past, echoes of ancestral experiences encoded in your very DNA? Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating and often surprising connection between ancestral trauma and our comfort food cravings. We'll explore how the hardships and survival strategies of our ancestors can manifest in our modern-day eating habits, and more importantly, how we can begin to heal these inherited patterns. Get ready to unlock a new understanding of yourself, your cravings, and the powerful legacy of those who came before you. The concept of ancestral trauma, also known as intergenerational trauma, isn't new, but its impact on our physical and mental well-being is only beginning to be fully understood. To truly grasp this concept, we need to journey back in time, exploring the historical and philosophical roots that laid the groundwork for this groundbreaking idea. The idea that trauma can be passed down through generations can be traced back to the mid-20th century, particularly through the work of psychiatrists studying the children of Holocaust survivors. These clinicians observed that these children, despite not directly experiencing the horrors of the Holocaust, often exhibited symptoms similar to those of their parents, including anxiety, depression, and a pervasive sense of unease. This sparked initial curiosity, prompting researchers to explore the possibility of trauma being transmitted across generations. One of the early pioneers in this field was Dr. Vivian Rakoff, a Canadian psychiatrist who studied the psychological effects of the Holocaust on survivors and their families. Her research highlighted the profound impact of trauma on family dynamics and the ways in which it could be unconsciously transmitted to subsequent generations. Another key figure is Dr. Yael Danieli, a clinical psychologist who extensively studied the multi-generational legacies of trauma in Holocaust survivor families. Her work emphasized the importance of understanding the historical context of trauma and its impact on identity, memory, and relationships. The philosophical roots of this concept run deep, drawing from various traditions that emphasize the interconnectedness of individuals and the influence of the past on the present. In many indigenous cultures, for example, there's a strong belief that ancestors continue to influence the lives of their descendants. This belief is often reflected in rituals, ceremonies, and oral traditions that honor and acknowledge the wisdom and experiences of those who came before. The idea of inherited memory also appears in the writings of Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst. Jung proposed the concept of the collective unconscious, a universal reservoir of ancestral memories and archetypes that he believed influenced human behavior and experience. While Jung's ideas are more symbolic and metaphorical, they resonate with the growing understanding of how past experiences can shape our present selves. More recently, the field of epigenetics has provided a scientific framework for understanding how trauma can be transmitted across generations. Epigenetics studies how environmental factors, such as stress and trauma, can alter gene expression without changing the underlying DNA sequence. These epigenetic changes can then be passed down to subsequent generations, influencing their physical and mental health. Think about it this way. Our ancestors faced a myriad of challenges, from famine and war to displacement and persecution. Their bodies and minds adapted to these stressors in order to survive. These adaptations, while crucial for their survival, may not be beneficial in our modern environment. For example, if your ancestors lived through a period of famine, their bodies may have become highly efficient at storing fat. This was a valuable adaptation that helped them survive during times of scarcity. However, in our modern world of readily available food, this same adaptation can contribute to weight gain and related health problems. Similarly, if your ancestors experienced chronic stress or trauma, their bodies may have developed heightened stress responses. This could manifest as increased anxiety, difficulty relaxing, or a tendency to overeat in response to stress. The foods our ancestors relied on for survival can also hold a deep emotional connection. Certain foods may have been associated with comfort, security, or celebration during times of hardship. These associations can be passed down through generations, leading to cravings for those same foods, even if we don't consciously understand why. The impact of historical events like slavery, the Irish potato famine, and the Armenian genocide are all prime examples of widespread trauma that has left an indelible mark on the descendants of those who suffered. The descendants of enslaved people, for example, may have a higher prevalence of conditions like hypertension and diabetes. which some researchers believe are linked to the chronic stress and nutritional deficiencies experienced by their ancestors. The Irish potato famine, which led to widespread starvation and emigration, has been linked to increased rates of anxiety and depression in subsequent generations. And the Armenian genocide, a horrific event that resulted in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people, has been shown to have lasting psychological effects on survivors and their descendants. Now, let's dive into the main narrative, the connection between quantum physics and consciousness, and how this relates to ancestral trauma. While it may seem like a leap, some theories suggest that our consciousness isn't limited to our individual brains, but rather is interconnected with a larger field of consciousness that transcends time and space. This idea, while still largely theoretical, has gained traction in recent years, with scientists and philosophers exploring the possibility that quantum phenomena, such as entanglement and non-locality, may play a role in connecting us to the past and influencing our present experiences. Consider the concept of quantum entanglement, where two particles become linked together in such a way that they share the same fate, no matter how far apart they are. Some researchers believe that this entanglement could extend beyond the physical realm, connecting us to the experiences and emotions of our ancestors. This doesn't mean that we directly experience their memories or emotions, but rather that we are influenced by their energetic imprint. This influence could manifest as subconscious patterns, beliefs, and behaviors that shape our food choices and cravings. Think about a personal transformation story. Imagine someone who has always struggled with a sugar addiction. They've tried every diet and willpower strategy imaginable, but nothing seems to work. Then, they begin to explore their family history and discover that their ancestors lived through a period of severe food scarcity. Suddenly, their sugar cravings take on a new meaning. They realize that their body is subconsciously responding to a deeply ingrained fear of starvation, a fear that was passed down through generations. This understanding doesn't magically eliminate their cravings, but it does give them a new perspective and a greater sense of compassion for themselves. They can now approach their cravings with more awareness and make more conscious choices about their food intake. Another perspective comes from the field of somatic experiencing, which focuses on healing trauma through the body. Somatic experiencing practitioners believe that trauma is stored in the body as unprocessed energy. By bringing awareness to these physical sensations and allowing the body to release the stored energy, individuals can begin to heal from the effects of trauma. This approach can be particularly helpful in addressing ancestral trauma, as it allows individuals to connect with the physical sensations and emotions that may be linked to their ancestors' experiences. Different spiritual traditions also offer valuable perspectives on ancestral healing. In many indigenous cultures, ancestral veneration is an integral part of spiritual practice. By honoring and acknowledging our ancestors, we can receive their guidance and support, and begin to heal the wounds of the past. This can involve rituals, ceremonies, and practices such as meditation and chanting. In some traditions, it's believed that unresolved trauma in the ancestral line can manifest as illness or misfortune in the present generation. By addressing these ancestral issues, we can clear the path for healing and abundance in our own lives. Now, let's analyze the evidence-based theories that support the connection between ancestral trauma and our food choices. While the field is still relatively new, there is growing scientific evidence to support the idea that trauma can be transmitted across generations. Epigenetics, as mentioned earlier, provides a plausible mechanism for this transmission. Studies have shown that exposure to stress and trauma can alter gene expression in ways that can be passed down to subsequent generations. These epigenetic changes can affect a wide range of physiological processes, including metabolism, stress response, and immune function. For example, a study published in the journal Biological Psychiatry found that the children of Holocaust survivors had altered stress hormone levels compared to a control group. These changes were linked to epigenetic modifications in genes involved in stress regulation. Another study, published in the journal Nature Neuroscience, found that mice exposed to a traumatic odor passed on a fear response to their offspring, even though the offspring had never been exposed to the odor themselves. This fear response was linked to epigenetic changes in the sperm of the male mice. While these studies provide compelling evidence for the transmission of trauma across generations, it's important to acknowledge the limitations of our current knowledge. The field of epigenetics is still relatively young, and there's much we don't yet understand about how environmental factors influence gene expression and how these changes are passed down to subsequent generations. It's also important to note that epigenetic changes are not always permanent. They can be influenced by a variety of factors, including diet, lifestyle, and environmental exposures. This means that we have the potential to influence our own epigenetic inheritance and break the cycle of ancestral trauma. Another limitation is the difficulty in isolating the effects of ancestral trauma from other factors that may influence our food choices. Our eating habits are shaped by a complex interplay of genetic, environmental, and cultural factors. It can be challenging to determine the extent to which ancestral trauma contributes to our cravings and food preferences. However, by taking a holistic approach that considers all of these factors, we can gain a deeper understanding of our relationship with food and begin to make more conscious choices. Recent scientific discoveries are shedding new light on the role of the gut microbiome in mental health and behavior. The gut microbiome is the community of microorganisms that live in our digestive tract. These microorganisms play a crucial role in digestion, nutrient absorption, and immune function. They also produce neurotransmitters, such as serotonin and dopamine, which can influence our mood and behavior. Studies have shown that imbalances in the gut microbiome can contribute to anxiety, depression, and other mental health problems. Interestingly, the composition of our gut microbiome can be influenced by our diet and lifestyle, as well as by our ancestors' experiences. Research suggests that the gut microbiome can be passed down from mother to child, meaning that we may inherit some of our ancestors' gut bacteria. This could potentially influence our food cravings and preferences, as certain gut bacteria may thrive on specific types of foods. For example, if your ancestors consumed a diet high in processed foods, you may inherit a gut microbiome that is adapted to this type of diet, leading to cravings for processed foods. Now, let's consider the contemporary impact of understanding ancestral trauma and its connection to our food choices. This knowledge has the potential to transform our relationship with food, leading to healthier eating habits and improved mental well-being. By understanding the roots of our cravings, we can begin to approach them with more awareness and compassion. We can also start to make more conscious choices about our food intake, choosing foods that nourish our bodies and support our mental health. One practical application is in the field of nutritional counseling. Therapists and nutritionists are beginning to incorporate an understanding of ancestral trauma into their work with clients. By exploring a client's family history and identifying potential sources of trauma, they can help the client understand the emotional and psychological factors that may be driving their food choices. This can lead to more effective and sustainable dietary changes. Another application is in the development of culturally sensitive nutrition programs. These programs take into account the unique food traditions and cultural experiences of different communities. By honoring and celebrating these traditions, while also addressing the potential impact of ancestral trauma, these programs can promote healthier eating habits and improve health outcomes. For example, a program designed for the descendants of enslaved people might incorporate traditional African American recipes that are both nutritious and culturally relevant. It might also address the historical trauma of slavery and its impact on food choices and health outcomes. The cultural significance of food is undeniable. Food is often associated with memories, emotions, and social connections. By understanding the cultural context of our food choices, we can gain a deeper appreciation for our heritage and strengthen our connection to our ancestors. We can also use food as a tool for healing and reconciliation by sharing meals with family and friends and creating new, positive associations with food. Emerging trends in technology are also offering new insights into the connection between ancestral trauma and our food choices. Genetic testing, for example, can provide information about our ancestry and our predisposition to certain health conditions. While genetic testing cannot directly reveal the impact of ancestral trauma, it can provide clues about our ancestors' experiences and the potential health consequences for us. Wearable sensors and mobile apps can also be used to track our eating habits and identify patterns of emotional eating. By combining this data with information about our family history, we can gain a more comprehensive understanding of our relationship with food. In conclusion, the connection between ancestral trauma and our comfort food cravings is a complex and multifaceted issue. While the science is still evolving, there is growing evidence to support the idea that trauma can be transmitted across generations and that this can influence our food choices. By understanding the roots of our cravings, we can begin to approach them with more awareness and compassion, and make more conscious choices about our food intake. What resonated most with you in today's exploration? Do you recognize any patterns in your own cravings that might be linked to your family history? Take a moment to reflect on this and consider how you might begin to heal these inherited patterns. If you found this video insightful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with anyone who might benefit from this knowledge. And if you're passionate about exploring the hidden connections between mind, body, and spirit, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. We dive deep into topics like this every week, offering practical tools and perspectives for personal growth and transformation. Don't forget to leave a comment below sharing your thoughts and experiences. Let's create a community of conscious eaters and healers. What are some of your favorite comfort foods? Do you know where they come from?